There we go. There we go. So good to see you, my friend. How's the weather down in sunny Rochester? It's okay.
Not too bad today, but I hear some cold weather's on the way here shortly.
Yeah. It's always it's I have fun imagining that it's just warmer in the south.
Yeah, it's not really.
No, that's good. That's good. It's just like okay, so I when doing my homework here, um, I didn't realize you went to McNally.
I did. I was there for a little while anyway. I didn't make it out with a degree, but I spent some time in those halls.
It's fine. It's good. I actually the only reason I bring it up is because that's actually I actually finished my degree there, and a lot of people don't realize I went to McNally, and it's funny. I'm just like, huh? And it's like, but now I'm like tracking down these. There's so many people I didn't realize like went to McNally for a time, and it's like it's kind of like wild to find out about it. Like one of my closest friends in town, Ben Cook Phelps, like he went there. Like he went there when it was called Music Tech, but I was like, I had no idea. So it's like it's kind of funny to have like this this like weird like background of McNally. Rest in peace, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of a bizarre situation how that all ended for them.
Yeah, I mean it's just kind of it's same as it ever was, I guess.
Yeah,
Like it's just like I don't know. I have fond but complicated memories of of McNally Smith.
uh,
When did you go though?
so I was there 2006
Sure.
ish,
Okay,
and
so
I,
that
I
was
was
like
there through most of '07, and I probably left like right around that time. I think I was back down here in '08 at some point.
oh wow. Okay, so I just missed you because I
Okay.
started halfway through '07. That's kind
Okay.
of like because my whole thing was um are you from Rochester? Did you born and
Yeah,
raised there?
I'm from here originally. Yep.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Stand by.
Yeah.
Little Feat here on Desert Islands. We also had some Dire Straits and some JJ Cale. Two picks off of the Desert Island picks list, and I am making a mixtape for Clay Fulton, who I believe is with us now. Clay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. Thank you for joining me here on Desert Islands. I know you got some shows coming up, so I appreciate you taking the time. But we're also gonna hear some new music from you. But let's just kind of get right into it here. Uh, Thank you for being on the show, but also let's talk about this show tomorrow because we'll do the whole local calendar. But who's on the bill with you? Because this looks like a fun time.
Yeah, so we are on the bill with Duncan Vinjay and Faith Boblet.
Yeah,
And
Faith is great.
yeah, and so Faith's the one that put it all together. We've been doing some shows with Faith and her band down here in Rochester, and this
Yeah.
was her super nice way of kind of reciprocating and breaking us up into the scene because it's hard to get gigs
Oh yeah. I mean,
in the cities when you're Rochester.
it is. 'Cause, well, I forget who put it. I was talking to some. I was doing an interview down in Winona last time I played, and even the DJ was just like, "Love the Twin Cities. You don't go there because they're full. They got their own thing going on, and it's hard enough for me to even So I'm fine doing my little show down here in the Driftless. I'm like, hey, that's cool, but like I totally get that. I think it's because Minnesota has this embarrassment of riches. Like there's just so many good artists, and they're all trying to get booked on the bill. And when you're from out of town, it kind of seems like a weird college orientation party where you're like,
Yeah,
wait, how does everyone already know each other? Oh man, what am I gonna do?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Faith and Paul Boblet. Oh man, talk about some of the nicest people
Oh
you'll
my
ever
gosh,
meet too.
right? So nice.
And every one of their bands is good. So check that out tomorrow at the entry. We'll be talking about this a little bit more, but it's the top of the hour here at KFAI, and I'm actually talking with Clay Fulton. Clay Fulton of the Lost 40. Today's mixtape is for Clay, and let's see what we got up next here. We have some local music coming up because there's a lot of releases coming in this weekend, but we also got some ZZ Top. But let's start things off with Dawes here on KFAI. So this is I'm glad you put this record on the list.
Awesome.
Just because Dawes is one of those bands, like they're a big band, right? But like I've noticed they have a huge following in Minnesota.
They do.
Like particularly Minnesota. Like it's not like they don't have a following elsewhere. I mean, they've released several records, but like usually when I encounter a Dawes fan, it's like it's usually like one of two albums. And I was surprised you put Stories Don't End on here. You know, it's like,
yeah, I mean, I like a lot of Dawes records, but
yeah,
it's hard to top that one for me personally.
What is it about this record that drew you in?
I think it was just kind of weird. I mean, I think him and I both grew up on a lot of the same music.
Yeah.
And
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I just felt like that record was like he really like turned a corner on like the kind of songwriter he was aspiring to be.
Right.
And like I know they keep growing and making beautiful music,
yeah.
you know, and the new record's fantastic, but I don't know, Stories Don't End just has like every song on there kind of speaks to me in just extremely well written music.
They really nail that, like what was kind of going on in the Valley during like the Mellow Mafia days. Like they sometimes like they'll have like a Jackson Brown sound.
Yes.
Where it's just like they even get like the guitar, like David Lindley's, like they even try to like emulate that David Lindley slide guitar tone, you know, and they nail it really well. But like this was the record where I feel like they kind of started going into like Mark Knopfler territory a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of getting into the Dire Straits sound a little bit. And I think so it's like I'm glad you put this on the list because like a lot of people when they throw Dawes in, it's like they go for the big anthemic, you know, like it's usually When My Time Comes, or you know, like I mean, the first time I kind of got into Dawes was like a little bit of everything, like that.
Me too.
I just didn't know who that band was, and I heard this song, and I'm like in my car, and I'm just like, oh, this is a good song. And by the end of it, I'm just like, this is a good song.
Same here. Yep, that's the one that got me too, all the way. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's just like I remember working their show at the Palace a few years ago, and they finished and they like did an encore, and like this was like probably the last legitimate encore I've ever seen, because like you know how it goes now, it's like it's just kind of like this built-in dog and pony show.
Yeah.
And I think like it's kind of trendy to mock the whole like peekaboo thing of just like, all right, we're going away. Just kidding, we're back. Hey, we're gonna play the song you paid to see us for. But I think in reality, like it became this thing to like give your crew a break. You know, like a lot of times, like it's just like these tours are kind of relentless, and you know, no one makes money in the industry. So like the people just like trot these bands out and put them on like so many dates. It's like borderline like Buddy Holly kind of routing. So like there is like a lot of people are, you know, bringing on hired guns too. So it's like it's not as much as like this weird family dynamic of just like, oh, should we do it? Should we not do it? It kind of becomes like this built-in, like, all right, like we have a breather and then we come back and do another set.
Yeah.
They did that. Like they did their encore, and usually like usually when that's over, like the lights go up and you know, everyone's just like, no, they're done. But like the crowd just refused to leave. Like they just kept staying. Like, and even like our house techs were just like it's like I had people coming up to me and I'm like just guarding the stage door. They're like, when are they coming back? I'm like, I don't know. And when Conrad puts the house lights up, that usually means like it's done. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And the crowd just stayed like, and they were on the tour bus already. Like they were ready to leave. Like they were already like, all right, the band's going to start their trek to the next city. And then the crew is going to pack up, and then that bus is going to go, which is usually how it goes. You know, like it's a lot of people who are like trying to trick me into getting backstage or like, oh, I'm going to hang out with the band. Got bad news for you. It ain't the 70s anymore. The band ain't hanging out backstage. Like the band is in their butt. The band is gone. And in the COVID era, no one's hanging out with anybody.
I suppose.
Like how many meet and greets I've seen canceled that are like the after show. It's just like, yeah, we're just not doing that. It's like, it's just not a thing. But like the crowd refused to leave, and we had to get somebody to go back on the tour bus and just say like, fellas, like, can you do one more? Because like we can't clean up the venue. They're not going anywhere.
That's
and like it was like they actually pulled the band off the bus, and like you could tell they were like, we don't know. Well, what tune should we do? You know, like it's just like it's and it was really cool to see like a genuine moment like that where like they were just kind of like surprised, like it was like they were just like, wow, like this is really flattering. The fact that
it's so cool that they went back and did it.
Yeah, it's like and so I always kind of have a soft spot for Dawes because like I know most bands would never do that.
No, probably not.
You know, like most bands would just be like, oh, that's cool. They're still out there. Yeah, we don't care. Like time is money. Like we gotta we gotta go. We gotta get out of here, you know. And it's not just like an arrogance thing. It's like in the modern time of touring, like there's so many contracts with like Live Nation, independent venues that like you can break a contract doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's like when the show's done, like it's done. And I get that. And I just thought that was like a really cool moment. And like, I feel like it could really only happen in Minnesota. Like Dawes just has that effect here.
I saw him on the Stories Don't End tour at First Avenue years ago.
Yeah.
I think Shovels and Rope might have opened for him. But that's
a good band too.
They were killer. They were so great live. But I don't know. I felt like Taylor was genuine on the mic and even saying about how much they were appreciated in Minnesota, and First Ave was sold out. And I don't know. I'd like to think they gave a little bit more that night, but maybe that's made up in my head. But
I mean, there is something to be said with like, you know, when a band is saying stuff like that, it's kind of like safe to assume that like they're just saying that. You know, it's like, no, we really love Akron, Ohio. Like, this is like, you know, like, we love this town. And it's like, but I think with them, there was a genuine effect with like, because the Current was spinning them a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And the Current is kind of like in the solar system of like media outlets in the Midwest, like the Current is kind of like Jupiter. Like it does kind of have a lot of gravity that it like pulls a lot of acts in. And then because of that, like other acts kind of get attracted to Minneapolis because they're like, oh, well, there's something there.
Yeah.
But like if the Current like decides to like kind of play a band a lot, like it does have an effect.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's like just everywhere. But like I do think because Mumford & Sons was kind of like hugely broken by the Current too. You know, like that, like they were one of the first stations in the States that like were playing that, and then like everyone was playing it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I just do think there's a genuine love for that band here.
Definitely.
So after this ZZ Top song, we're gonna be back on the air, but I'm gonna like be reading a calendar thing.
Okay.
So we'll, you know, we get to reiterate the show again.
Okay.
And then that kind of thing. what's interesting about this ZZ Top record is like they pulled it off streaming.
I know.
Like I was like, why? You know?
I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's not like it's because there are records like the Beach Boys' Endless Summer, where it was like the John Stamos years. Like that record's not on streaming, you know, where it's like the Mike Love show and like, you know, John Stamos gets to sing a song. Like, I get why that record's not on streaming. But it's like, I don't get why this, it's like, it's nothing to be ashamed of, ZZ Top. Like, come on.
No, I think it's their best record.
Stand by. All right. Little bit of ZZ Top right there. We also heard new Dan Rumsey. Dan Rumsey has a CD release show this weekend. Of course, we heard some Dawes, and if you're on the off mic, we were talking about Dawes and talking about their tunes. But let's talk about some tunes happening right here in the Twin Cities this week and beyond, shall we? Starting with tonight. So at the Hook and Ladder, we have Surly Gurley, Rigby, Riot Girl, Darko. This is all at the Hook and Ladder tonight. Also tonight, Brandon Weddle, Kate Malenefi, and Natalie Fiddler. This is at the 7th Street Entry tonight at 7 p.m. Speaking of the 7th Street Entry, Clay Fulton's playing the 7th Entry tomorrow. We'll get into that. I'll let Clay give us the details because just want to finish this calendar here and we can talk about that. Lifestyle Shake's release show is also tomorrow with Loser Magnet, Pyrrhic Victories, and Yoni Yum. This is at Memory Lanes, which I'm kind of psyched Memory Lanes is doing music again. I kind of missed that. Friday, Matthew French is going to do his release show for Two Sides. Two Sides was kind of like a double album thing. Matthew French came on the show. Oh, when was the last time Matthew French came on the show? He's been on the show, and he's celebrating his release show this weekend. So congrats, Matt. Also on Friday, we have... Oh, it's Saturday. So let's look at Saturday, because Saturday there's a lot. We're going to have some bands releasing records, and I'm going to listen to that, but we're also going to listen to Clay Fulton and the Lost 40s latest record. So Saturday, Thomas Bond is going to have a release show. Dark Bunny is going to be opening for that. Rich Madsen and the North Stars, who just released a record, they had the celebration on the Iron Range, but now they're coming back to the Twin Cities, the Hook and Ladder Theater. Kiss the Tiger presents Stone Baby. We actually talked to Kiss the Tiger about Stone Baby last time they were on the show, but that was when the run was ending, and now they're bringing it back for an encore at Ice House. 2 shows. There's going to be a matinee and a late show, so check that out. Of course, Dan Rumsey's release concert at the Ginkgo is on Saturday. Giallo record release, we're going to be hearing that. Spine from Kansas City is going to be on the bill, as well as Kill Us Online, and that's at the Pillar Forum. And the Green Room. This is a new venue in Minneapolis, and they're going to have a little party to celebrate its opening, featuring Denim Matriarch, Phoenix Dion, Scrunchies, Colin Bracewell, and Gully Boys. Of course, Sunday, Charlie Parr is going to continue his residency at the Turf Club every Sunday. So this is the last one. And yeah, there we go. Of course, we have the Cactus Blossoms every Monday this month. We can check that out. But next month, looking ahead, Taylor James Donsky is going to be releasing a record. We're actually going to be talking with him next week about that. And to celebrate, he has a residency every Tuesday at the 331 Club, and the bills are really, really well thought out. So we're going to be talking with Taylor about that next week. Of course, Big Turn Music Fest is coming up. Yeah. Are you playing Big Turn? Or you're playing the entry tomorrow, but are you also on the Big Turn lineup as well?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that's going to be... I really enjoy going to Big Turn. I feel like every year it's kind of like the end of Groundhog Day, you know, like just like walking around the town and there's snow everywhere and you're just like, let's live here. It's just, you see it's like a family reunion too. Like you just see all these bands that you never get to see.
Red Wing's beautiful.
Red Wing really is a charming town. It's like the landscape is gorgeous and there's, you know, It's fun to walk about. So Big Turn's going to be great, and that's coming up sooner than you think. You know, these events are always like, yeah, but that's like, and then they show up.
Oh,
Like
no.
Big Turn's going to
Yeah.
happen, and then Midwest Music Fest is probably, you know, the next week.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually talk about this show tomorrow, because you're playing the entry. When does music start?
Doors are at 7:30, and then music will start about 8:30.
And so who is Faith closing, or are you closing, or
We're
who's
closing, and Faith is in the middle slot, and then
Okay.
Duncan is opening the night out.
Nice. Okay, so I got your latest queued up. I'm gonna play Back to Bruges.
Right.
But can we talk about this record a little bit? Because I noticed that this is where the vid chat kind of gets me in trouble, and I forget we're on the radio and not everyone can see you. But if you want to see us, I believe, Clay, you're wearing a Carpet Booth hoodie.
I am.
Is that where you did this? I know you've done records there before. Did you do this record there as well?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes,
Great.
the Carpet Booth.
Yeah, a lot of people are making great records out of there.
Yeah.
And so have you done all your recordings at Carpet Booth?
Yeah, I've cut 2 albums, and both with Zach Zern at Carpet Booth.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's get into this one, and then we will have plenty of time to talk about the nitty gritty of all of these things. But here is Back to Bruges by Clay Fulton and the Lost 40 here on Desert Islands. There we go. You can still hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
There we go. Yeah, it's just like, this is always like the this is always like the part where like I usually have to like reset the pins, and there's like just this moment of silence. And it's always when I'm playing my guests' music, which like I didn't realize how awkward it is until I start doing the press junket on other people's shows. And you're already like, you just finished mixing this thing, and you've already been listening to it so many times that you're just like sitting there like, is this even good? Is this even the single? Should we be playing this? I don't know. Oh, what am I doing? And the host is just sitting there like, and you're just sweating, and it's just like, I swear I'm not meaning to do that. There are logistical things. I got to do the octopus arm thing and just be like, oh, okay, this is okay, and just make sure it's going on. So yeah, Carpet Booth. So how many is it? Just Zach down there, or are other people engineers there as well?
Yeah, well, he's had some come and go. You know how that goes in the
studio.
Yeah, he had one named, we did some live videos with one of his engineers named Nick Hamilton, who is a really creative songwriter as well. But Nick moved out to New York.
Yeah.
And Zach's always got interns and stuff that are just waiting for their crack at the board and to work with a guy like him. And then they actually have a mastering engineer in-house, Alec Ness, masters out of there now as well, and he mastered this last record for us, which I thought he did a phenomenal job.
I think that's the way to do it. That's actually how LPF did our last 2 records, is like we also were kind of under the gun because it was pandemic.
Sure.
Like we just got signed before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and the label was just everyone was hemorrhaging money, and then we were like one of the like 5 artists that got immediately dropped from that label, and just like it just didn't work out. So at the time we thought like, oh, well, let's record a bunch of stuff because we don't know when we're going to be able to do this again. So we went with Brett Bouillon, and he has like, him and Huntley Miller have like an in-house thing, which I think is like, I think that's the way to do it, because like certain engineers have a way of like mixing things that like a mastering engineer will be like, oh, I know they like to do this.
Absolutely.
And they know how to treat it. They're like, they like to have their mixes here.
Sure.
And then it's it becomes a more I especially stuff like your kind of tunes, like you have a lot of organic instruments in there where it's just like a mastering job can take out some of the character of that stuff if you're,
Sure.
like, and it's just like it's just good to have like the partnership of people who kind of there's a connection there,
Yeah,
like
they're a great 1-2 punch, however,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's just like kind of like a good way of doing it. But like I I don't know, I was saying check out what's going down in Rochester for years, and then like now Young Gravy's blowing up, and
Oh,
I don't know what that means, but but it's a thing,
yeah, it's
and
definitely a thing.
it's I don't know, but he did stuff at Carpet Booth, right?
He
Wasn't that
cuts
like
all
the
of his
whole?
records there, and Zach
Really?
Zach records them all with him. Yeah, they've been doing that together for quite a while now. Like,
That's insane.
yeah, it's pretty insane. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that there's a gold record hanging
Oh
around.
yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, like a gold record is nothing to shake a stick at because no one buys records anymore.
True. I know.
It's kind of impressive.
I know. It's like, how do you pull that off nowadays?
There is a weird thing that I know. I know streaming has something to do with charting now.
Okay.
But I don't know how much.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Like
interesting.
it's like there. I know certain amounts of the metrics, but I mean, like, I also don't. The mechanism is so big that it's just like I don't even know what is used to like define it anymore because
Yeah.
it's just like a stream isn't a sale, but like
Right.
it's not nothing either, and since most people are just streaming things, because I know that's kind of how Taylor Swift got like every song in the top 10 for a hot second there, because like
Uh-huh.
streaming was like she was dominating streaming, like to the point where I was just like, how, you know, like it's not that I'm like throwing shade at Taylor Swift as much as
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, how did you get like 70 million in like 2 days?
That's insane.
Like, how did that happen?
Jeez.
Like, it's like I don't know, like, does Spotify have bots? Like I
I don't
don't,
know.
because I don't. It's like it's, and this is not going to lead into a rant of me like uh, shaming other artists for like streaming their own music to like bump up their numbers. Because here's the
Oh,
thing.
sure.
Here's the thing about that. Let's do the math on that. If you spun your own album every day, like 24/7, okay, you're trying to tip the scales or whatever. But like, let's actually put the reality of that math. A 4-minute song, how many times can you really play a 4-minute song in an hour, especially on like a record with like 11 songs or even 5 songs?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you did that to your own music, what would that really add up to? Like 1,000?
Yeah, I mean,
Like it's not even.
it's not worth it.
It's like it's not that it's like not worth it as much as just like if you're looking at like trying to get vengeance on the nepo babies, it's just like
Yeah, like
the artists doing that for themselves really aren't tipping the scales all that much if you
right.
think
Yeah.
about it. But like it's just like, so I guess what I'm wondering is like, are there bots like for like, because there's bots on everything else, like are there bots that are just, you're like having a web of bots just stream account, like I don't know how that works, but it's just like, not that Taylor Swift needs that, but it's just
No.
like
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, because you.
payola is a thing. It's a thing. This song is only like 30 seconds long. So 10 seconds.
All right. All right.
Giallo. That is off their latest record, which is actually putting some numbers on the streaming. If you were kind of following us on the off mic chat, we're talking, being in awe of the mechanism that is streaming. But we also heard new Thomas Abban off of the new EP, which is going to be celebrated this weekend. We also heard the new Clay Fulton record. And if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, where I'm talking with Clay Fulton right now. It's a show where I make mixtapes based on the 10 records my guest would bring to a desert island. And we're talking with Clay today. How many songs do we even have left on your picks list? I think. Oh wow! I think we only have like one or two left here. And if I'm a talker, if we don't get to the whole list, I'm going to post the link to the mixtape below. It is, it's a Spotify link, kind of timely. Speaking of streaming, if folks like what they heard, where can they hear it again, Clay? Like, do you prefer they go to a streaming service? Do you have a website, a Bandcamp? Is there a spot you'd rather have folks get their hands on this?
Well, I guess I just would rather them listen to it anywhere they can consume it.
Right.
Spotify's obviously, I mean, I'm a Spotify guy, so I kind of tend to post those links. Otherwise, the old YouTube channel, we love a like or a follow.
Yeah.
You can find our music on there. You can purchase them on, multiple, like Amazon or wherever else.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there you go. Clay Fulton and the Lost 40. Let's see here. Up next, we have some Heat Miser, some Morphine. But first, we're going to kick things off with some Alkaline Trio. Follow us offline. We're online. Off mic. We'll be talking about Desert Island Picks List. But let's listen to the Desert Island Picks List, shall we? Here is Alkaline Trio here on KFAI. So this was kind of a fun list for me to make because it was like an interesting Sudoku puzzle. Because we have like all this like rootsy stuff, and then it's just like, oh, what am I gonna do with brand new and Alkaline Trio? Like we're gonna.
Sorry to do that. Yeah.
Oh no! This is the most fun part of the show for me because like I firmly believe there's room for everything. Like I think it's like a potluck, and for me, the most fun thing is like to find the flow of like how all these things actually work together. You wouldn't know they work together, but they definitely do, and there's always a way to get it to happen. And I think as artists, we get in our own heads of like there's like this weird scarcity mindset that the industry kind of shoves down our throats, where it's just like, well, what are you gonna do, kid? Like we already got 5 artists like you. But like in reality, if you put those 5 artists on a bill, the audience would love it. And it's like in your head, like the artist like watching someone kill, just absolutely murder on stage, and you're like, what are we gonna do? It's just like in reality, I think most audiences like that's like the best time to ride the wave, where it's like the audience is already primed. They're already excited. They're probably going to love your set too. Like they're not thinking after like that. It's like, well, what's this band going to do? It's not better. This can't be better than that. Like they're just going like, they're just going to a potluck and going like, oh, cool. There's more cake.
Yeah, I did. Potluck. That's a great way to put it.
And it's like, I can't take credit for that because there is an artist, and their name escapes me, but they make web comics, and that was like the analogy they had, where it's just like the artist is like bringing their baked goods to a potluck, and they just see 4 cakes, and they're just like, oh man, no one's gonna like my cake. All those cakes look really good. Like it's just like, but everyone else going to the potluck is like, holy shit, there's 4 cakes here.
Exactly.
This is the best party ever.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
It's just like, I don't know. But like, I really enjoy, I don't know where I was going with this, but like, I do think there is room for the tape. Like, I like mixing genre bills. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I definitely think you can always get some Alkaline Trio in there, anywhere, you know, just because it's like, I don't know, but I might be biased just because I do listen to a little bit of everything, and
Yeah.
I to me it's all kind of the same, and I have met people who just they don't like the sound of distortion. That's fine.
Sure.
That's fine. You know, like I get that. You know, and it's like you're stating a preference. That's fine.
Yeah.
But no, it's had a lot of fun making the list because that's like my favorite. That's like my favorite part of like it's like putting the puzzle together.
Yeah, that sounds like
I guess my question is, of the lists, because I was trying to put in um what I like to do with lists is like I try to like kind of get a feeling of like, oh, when do I think this person discovered this artist? You
ah.
know, like what do you think, what was like the first, so for me I'm just like, oh, a lot of the stuff I listened to in high school is kind of on this list, you
Uh-huh.
know, where it's like the My Morning Jacket in there and
Oh,
just like
sure.
kind of stuff like that. Um, and it's just like, when do you think you discovered Alkaline Trio? Was it those years for you?
Let's see. That one I can remember specifically. I
Yeah,
was, I think, in like 8th grade
yeah.
when From Here to Infirmary came out.
Oh yeah.
Of course, we're going back to like the Kazaa Napster days,
Oh
you
my
know.
God. Yeah.
And
Do you remember trying to like download files and like you would like I remember like you would get excited. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna download Chop Suey. And then like, but my internet connection is 56K because we're,
yeah.
you know, like we're
Oh
not
yeah.
and then so you start the download before you go to school, and then you're like, oh yeah, by the time I come home, that's gonna be
I'm
done.
gonna have one song waiting
You
for
have
me.
one song, and then you open it, and it's like it's not even the right song. It's
Oh
just
yeah, that was the worst. Oh yeah, people would always
and then
do
you have a
that.
virus on your computer because you use
Yes,
LimeWire. But okay, so 8th grade.
that's
All right,
hilarious.
keep going.
But no, yeah, that was definitely like a junior high time for me when I kind of
Yeah.
first started getting into I mean, just kind of put it broadly, like kind of the punk rock, pop punk kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And the trio was like kind of one of the first ones that I took serious. You know, I listened to like, shouldn't say I didn't take like Green Day serious or something as a kid growing up, but
Yeah.
Alkaline Trio kind of changed my mindset on songwriting, and it was charts I could play on my guitar
Well,
and
no,
on
absolutely.
to, and that was huge for me, you know, to be able to play like
Yeah.
what they actually played on a record.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think like because at the time like I was also listening to that stuff, and I was like super into Blink 182,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you know, and it's just like I always felt like Alkaline Trio was like it was like the next logical progression for me because like I think in reality a lot of why I was drawn to Blink 182 is like I liked skateboarding and I liked that they had swears, you know,
yeah.
and
They were
like
cool.
growing up extremely Catholic, you know, like that kind of contraband was like a big deal, you know, like
For sure.
it's like you had to get the version with the explicit sticker on it.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's like it's just like why bother getting it? But like so like where Blink 182 was kind of like it's not that they like weren't a serious band. It's just like they're clearly not serious people. You know,
Right.
like they put a sense of humor in their songs. I feel like Alkaline Trio were always it was like that band where it's just like, oh, these guys are like serious. Like these guys write, you know? And it was like it was kind of like pushing me into like that direction of just like kind of
Same here. Yep.
and it's which is actually kind of funny that like Matt actually joined Blink for like
I
a
know.
hot.
Yeah, that was always, it was so weird when that all of a sudden I was like, what?
Well, I remember thinking that like I remember thinking it's like it. I feel like canonically it made sense for all of us because I feel like anyone who was like into those bands was kind of listening to all of those bands. So
Yeah,
like it like made sense, but also like didn't. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And Yeah, I don't know. And I often wonder how he felt about his stint in Blink, because Alkaline Trio didn't stop. And well, when like when Tom DeLonge came back, it was just kind of like, he even had this post where like it kind of felt like the parents were just getting back together, and like the stepfather was like, just like, we're still like dating though, and it's just like, yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Like, it's just kind of like, and then even Tom DeLonge was just like, hey, thanks for keeping the seat warm for me, buddy. And they're like, you can get
For
the hell
real.
out of here. Like, and I was just like,
See it, yeah.
like Alkaline Trio is like a noteworthy band in their own right. Like, I kind of felt like it was just like, all right, yeah, that was nice. Just get this. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, what? It's like, it wasn't like a brief time too. Like, I feel like, oh, now I'm gonna have to go to Google. How long was he in
How? Yeah.
1982? It was a few years,
Definitely
right?
toured for a while.
Yeah, they did. Like, it was
Yeah.
like it was a thing. Oh. We're about to go on the air, but I got to get these underwriting carts in.
Cool.
There's one more.
Okay.
But this one's only gonna last for like 10 seconds. So.
Okay.
We also have some Heat Miser, some Morphine, some Alkaline Trio. And if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands. This is the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records that they would bring to a desert island. And today we're making one for Clay Fulton. So we're kind of talking about the origin of the picks list, getting into Alkaline Trio and all that. But I like how diverse this list is. It feels like a time capsule, which is kind of why I like doing this show, because it's a pretty intimate question. Like, what are the 10? It's harder than people realize. I would have the worst time coming on my own show. But what record do you think came into your life first? Because we were talking about the time period of like when you got into Alkaline Trio.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a record before that? Like, what artist do you think came into your life and got this whole going?
Well, and that was kind of hard to narrow in there, because I was lucky when I was little. My parents both had a pretty substantial record collection.
Oh yeah.
And I was just kind of granted access to it. And my dad was one of those guys that like took a stack out and he was like, "These are important, check these out."
Yeah.
So that's like the ZZ Top is in there for that reason. Like, Guelo was on the table all the time when I was a kid, and I know that record, front to back.
Yeah. Especially that era of ZZ Top too. Like, they had like a record run where like, not only were those records like good, but they were like impeccably mixed.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to the original master of Tres Hombres, like, I think it's way better than any there's like a level of voodoo that's like, no, it's a perfect balance. Like, the way ZZ Top mixed their records, just like, they just had the right tone and the right texture
to
totally give you that feeling.
Yep.
And that's not easy to do. Like, I think a lot of people think now this is like, because the blues and rock and roll are so established, that it's just like taken for granted. But it's just like, they kind of found the formula that I think a lot of people were like, well, how do I get Billy Gibbons' tone?
I know.
Trying to figure that out.
Good luck.
Yeah, ZZ Top is always like I had older brothers, so I think that's what did it for me, because I think everyone needs some sort of like stewardship into that, because one, it can be hard to find, but two, it can be hard to find because there's so many options now.
Oh yeah.
You know, like it's like analysis paralysis, and like it's cool to watch in my students because like to them, the Beatles are just as relevant as anything they're listening to on TikTok
That's
because it
incredible.
it, it exists on like a flat disc, you know, like it's not this linear thing where people who grew up with it like kind of it's like, oh, there's a story here, you know, like they're
Mhm.
watching a movie and it's just like, well, you can't listen to that until you've listened to this. It's like, but to them, it's just like it's all existing at once, and they're just kind of picking stuff that they like here and there,
Yeah.
which is cool to see a lot of different genres mixing country into the mix,
Yeah.
you know, just because it's like I think there's a whole crop of like younger bands in the fifth wave emo scene that are kind of like infusing some stuff with country. Like Mike Coda, she introduced me to the term y'alternative, and I'm like an evangelist about this. Like I heard that term and I'm like, that is perfect.
Yeah.
Like that is like the perfect
That's
term
great.
for it. Cause like there's like I had friends who would do they're all in punk bands and they would talk about Garth Brooks. And
Mhm.
it's just like there was definitely a time where it's just like, wait, are you ironically listening to Garth Brooks? And people are like, yeah, man, it's great. And then now it's just like, no, there was no irony in that. Like that stuff,
For
that
real.
stuff is the real deal, you know? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now I think there is this era where like people are kind of coming out of the country closet of just like, no, I've always loved country. And it's just like, it's like, and now people are kind of experimenting with it. You know, there's even like the Nashville cats, like Sturgill Simpson's doing some interesting stuff too.
Yes, he
Um,
is.
so it just goes to show. But like, so what band on this list do you think? Because there's definitely some artists that I listened to growing up because I
Mhm.
had people in my life, like you said, going like, "Oh, this is important.
Yeah.
You should listen to this." But like John Coltrane didn't really inspire me to think I could do that. I
Um,
just thought it was a cool record. Like, is there an artist that you thought like I got to start songwriting? I got like, is there an album on this that you think that like shaped your sound as a songwriter?
I mean, that's a tough one. Probably on that list because I struggled greatly with that
It's
list.
hard. It's a hard question.
Um, but JJ Cale probably
Oh,
was the big one on
yeah,
that list for me.
yeah.
And I think it was just like his vocal style and just kind of like the laid backness of him. I was like,
Oh, of course.
oh, I
Yeah,
could do this, you know.
yeah,
And I started writing songs when I was like 9 or 10, and that's when I
yeah.
first started listening to him. Neil Young was another big one for me.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Harvest Moon was always on in the kitchen.
Yeah,
And his songwriting was kind of like you're doing cowboy chords and stuff and learning guitar, and
yeah.
another one you're like, oh, I can go replicate this, and then
Yes.
yeah,
Those for sure. It's funny that you say JJ Cale because like I discovered JJ Cale through Lou Reed essentially.
nice,
You know, because it's like, and I feel like I would listen to Dylan and be like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like I feel like I'm listening to a college professor. Like I can't write songs like that. But
yeah,
like you listen to Lou Reed and it's just like if you have the right attitude to sell it, you absolutely can. And
yeah,
that was like, oh, whoa. And then you discover how many great songs JJ Cale wrote
yes,
that are covered by other artists. But you're right. Neil Young was one of those artists for me too, because like, yeah, it's cowboy chords, but he was that artist that showed me it's just like, yeah, sure. Cowboy chords are great, but like, are you putting your heart in it?
yeah.
Because
I
that's
mean,
what makes it great. You got to put your heart in it.
yeah, I guess the classic singer songwriters in that sense always I was like super in love with and learned like, yeah, if you can write a melody, you know, you can do a lot of that stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guest 10 records. Bring to a desert island. Today, I'm making one for Clay Fulton and the Lost 40. Clay Fulton and the Lost 40, by the way, if you're just tuning in and you missed the preamble, you're playing the entry tomorrow, 7th Street entry. Faith Boblett's going to be there, and hopefully some of you are going to be there. Up next, we're going to have some Charlie Crockett, Tyler Childers, and we're going to close things out with the Velvet Underground. But first, we have this. The Internet Geeks at IP House are proud supporters of Fresh Air Community Radio. It's the last underwriting cart. I got to make sure I get it in before it's like it's always that thing. It's like we're kind of getting to the last couple minutes here.
Okay.
And which is, you know, it's easy for me to kind of lose sight of time. But yeah, the only reason I bring it up is because Democracy Now! Is after this show, and I really need to make sure we end it on time.
That's totally fair.
That's you know, it's not that I don't think this kind of art is important, because I do think the thing that brings people together without fail, music and food. Like it's just because I play a lot of the you know, they're labeled the Trump towns, but like I really think it's just more of like city mouse versus country mouse kind
Yep,
of
I feel you there.
thing. Like I don't think politics has much to do with it as much as like the only thing that kind of brings everybody together. And when I play those towns, like my audiences are like, you know, the older folk who like some good guitar playing, but like also like the younger goth kids who like just want somewhere to hang, you know.
Yeah.
And that's like that's bringing them. It's the only two things I've seen actually just make those lines irrelevant, and people are just gathering.
Totally fair.
And so like it is important, but I feel like Amy Goodman is kind of doing the bigger work here. Doing a little bit more heavy lifting than than whatever it is we're doing. But yeah, it's like so Tyler Childers, I just recently discovered because he was like a name just kind of in the ether, where it's just like, oh yeah, I know that name.
Yeah.
I kind of got into him off his latest record, which was like, he had this whole concept of like, he had this group of songs, and then he released like this anthology.
Yes.
Where like it was like different versions of the same material, and it's just like, but it was like, it's a monumental undertaking what he did, because it wasn't just like different styles. Like he was almost like trying to make different eras, where it's just like, what would this song be if it came out like at this time period? And if we were doing this whole rhythm and blues review, it would probably sound like this if we did this song at that point. And it's just like it's like it was like I still haven't even like gotten to the end of it. Like I was just impressed that an artist put that much depth into their work.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing.
I haven't seen him live yet. I don't know if he comes to Minnesota much. He probably does. I mean, everyone does. Have you seen him?
I had a chance when I was out west this last year, but it just didn't line up. For when I was traveling to like go see him. It would have been at Red Rocks, which would have been a great show.
Man, I think that's like, I'm not much of a bucket list person, you know, where it's just like, oh, I need to do these things. Like I'm much more just like, just kind of take life as it comes. Like I almost had this like weird attitude of like, I kind of have to feel like I'm invited, you know, like it's like, it's like the Midwestern vampire. I need to be invited 3 times before I can enter.
Gotcha.
It's just like, but like if I had a bucket list item, I still haven't seen a show at Red Rocks, and it's just like, I almost think I'm being too precious about it. It's like, no, it's got to be the right show to go to. It's just like, when in reality I should just go. I should just go. And but like that, I definitely would want to see a Red Rock show of someone.
Same. Yeah, I like walked through it when I was there when there was no show or whatever, and I was like,
even that's worth it.
You take it in, it's like, wow, this is a pretty incredible setup. Like, it's so unique.
It's I mean, that thing's a national treasure, you know.
Right.
Like I feel like people go to that thing worldwide, like just for the sake of like, oh, we got to go, let's go see it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And it's totally worth it.
What's crazy though is like sometimes like when it snows, they don't it ain't like baseball. Like they game on, you know, like I've seen like the concert footage of like snow is happening and like the show is still going, and it's just like, that's wild.
Yeah, I've heard that they don't like canceling stuff there unless it's like absolutely time to pull the plug.
Yeah, which is, I can't imagine what it would be like to see a show when it's snowing there, you know, like what kind of
Yeah,
I bet if you were dressed for it, I bet it would be magic.
I think so. And like, well, you wonder too, like it can't be like being outside of Minnesota in a snowy
No,
show. You know, I mean, I'm assuming it's
no.
quite a bit warmer, but probably pretty heavy snow coming down on you in the mountains.
Yeah, because it's a little bit warmer, you would get that thicker, fluffier snow, and it's just like
But it could
it
be kind
really is
of
funny about the weather up here because like I don't want to sound like a you know typical Midwestern dad, but like most of the time, it really wouldn't be that bad if it weren't for the wind. Like it's like the cliche line, but it's just I've said that it's like yeah, it wouldn't be that so bad for.
well, I know it's true, but I hate to say it out loud.
Well, yeah, because but it I don't know. I think it's also it's also one of those things where I think people who haven't experienced a winter up here, because I grew up on the East Coast, so even I was just like, wait, do y'all really just sit around and talk about the weather? And it's just like until you've experienced the weather and
Yeah,
you realize it actually is something to talk about because it's like that old Icelandic saying where it's just like if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it'll be worse. Like
yep.
it kind of is a conversation starter. I mean, sometimes it's I almost feel like a Russian novelist, like dealing with this. Like it's just like testing the depths of your soul.
Well, it does though. I know I'm playing a solo show in Duluth next weekend, and I just was like looking. I'm like, oh, it might be a casual like 40 below with the wind next week. That'll be fun to load in.
Duluth in winter is weird though because I remember doing like February shows up in Duluth and like thinking the same thing where it's just like, why did we agree to do this, man? Like we got to drive up there. No one's gonna go out to see a show in 40 below and it's gonna be snowing. It's like it's not really the case. Like up in
No,
Duluth,
yeah,
it's just kind of a culture where it's just like,
it
no,
doesn't
live
stop
music is
them.
what we do. We're gonna, we're
Absolutely.
gonna go to Bent Paddle. We'll catch a few tunes over here. We'll walk down. It's like it doesn't matter what the weather is. They're used. They're
Yes.
used
Oh
to the
yeah.
weather.
It doesn't stop the people from going out, which is great. That's why
No,
that's
no.
what I thought when I first booked it. I was like, oh, February 3rd. Okay, well, it's Duluth. I'll give it a roll. You know.
It's surprising how well people turn up. And
It's great to hear.
I also think there is like a tourism aspect to Duluth
Yeah.
where like college towns like they kind of come alive like in the middle of like around just before spring break and then like right around Halloween, like it's like those midterm things.
Sure.
And then like but Duluth is kind of like there is a tourist aspect where it's like in the winter a lot of people are going up to Papa Charlie's and then they're like, oh yeah. And then the summer a lot of people, so it's like winter and summer are actually pretty good times to play Duluth because like there
Sure.
are kind of people around. It is surprising. That being said, my car would not survive up there. I just there were so many times when I had my big green van, which I finally got rid of. But I did record an EP in it before I got rid of it.
Cool.
I remember playing a show in Duluth, and I've been playing Duluth for years. So I was just like in this mindset of like, it'll be fine. We'll do it. Like, and then you get up there and you're like, am I going backwards? Oh, I'm sliding. This is not good. And then you have to find another route to like.
Well, yeah, some of those
like
streets are brutal.
I don't know how I would deal with because it's not just the ice, it's the bluffs, like the slope. It's just like I don't know how you would live there without understanding that slipping and falling is a part of life.
I know.
I don't know. Yeah, but I still flirt with moving up to Duluth all the time though, because it's just there's something about Lake Superior.
Yep.
And there's
North
something about that music scene too.
Yeah.
There absolutely is. But there's also something about the Rochester music scene, which like 5 years ago, I don't think you could say that, but like when I was talking about this 2 years ago, people were just like, really, Rochester? Why are you playing Rochester so much? Like what is down? I'm just like, go.
Yeah, it's
Like
changed
there's
a
like
lot quickly.
there's new blood in the mix that are like actively trying to
Yes.
just make, it's like, hey, we have these resources. Why don't we just like make this city what we want it to be? Why don't we, you know, like, and it's like there's a lot of really cool creative stuff going on. And now Young Gravy took over the world. So who's laughing
Yeah.
there? Yes, there's definitely something going on in Rochester.
Yeah,
But
we're
like
playing a show with them Cooley Boys Friday night in Roch,
I
and it
saw that.
sold out
Yeah,
yesterday.
that's gonna be a good one. Yeah.
And
That's
it's just
like
cool, you know. Finally, we're doing some ticketed shows, and it's like there's an audience for it here, you know.
There absolutely is. I think that's like the most fun part about it, is like it's I think it's like, it's not just like there's like the doctor money where it's just like, oh yeah, it's just like, no, there's like people who like, there's music heads who are like, it's not just like, yes, let's just get entertainment. It's just like, no, there are people who are like specifically going like, let's get this band.
Yeah.
Let's get this band. Like there's actual curation and care behind it, which is cool to see, because like that's not in every music scene, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can have talent, but like it takes people who care.
Oh, it does, yes.
It
absolutely.
does. And there's a lot of cool like little pockets in Rochester that are just like kind of like, you know, stuff Rosie's doing, Tree Dome, of course.
Yep.
You know, it's just like there's a whole scene. Where is that show again?
So we're gonna play at Thesis Beer Project.
I love Thesis. Yeah.
Yes, and they did a big stage build out during the pandemic, and now they're kind of like at this point where, you know, music did well this last year with turnout, but everything's a free show, and now they're kind of hitting the waters of like, we got to do some stuff at the door, and you know, it's kind of make that turn.
I think it's weird with the brewery scene, because the brewery scene over the pandemic kind of became the perfect place to host live music, just because a lot of them have a lot of space and a lot of places to like put outdoor stuff. But there is a culture where people just kind of expect like, oh, let's just go down to the tap room and have a drink. And then if you start charging, people are like, well, I don't want to, you know, so it's like, there's like this weird balance where like, I feel like you got to charge for like the weekend. And then like, or like have an early show that's free, and then like a night show that like it's super weird to do ticket events at breweries, because like there's like well, I mean, context shapes content. You know, if someone's going to like a black box theater, even if it's only 100 people, there is kind of that like, oh yeah, I have to go buy the ticket to go into the thing. Where like breweries are almost like a restaurant style. It's like where like people are just kind of like, I don't want to pay to get in. I just want to go in and have a, so it's hard, but like it's weird. You know, you got to keep the lights on.
Exactly. Like, you know, I grew up in the restaurant business, so I get this stuff, and it's like you can't just pay bands to play free shows every week, week in, week out.
Yeah,
there's not enough on the table there for them to keep their lights on, like you say. You know,
it's like there's a weird balance with it. Like you can, if you're doing like one artist is just like playing for 3 hours.
Oh yeah. Like there's a spot in town, Forger does that. I play there, but like you're only gonna go in there and do a 3-hour acoustic set. And like that's how it's gonna go, and that's built into their model. And you know, and they'll never, if your band plays, you're never gonna get, you know, boodles of cash if you want to play there.
No, I do like how there is at least like an understanding that like, oh, we got to pay these people something, you know. Just making sure Democracy Now! Is actually going live, but like it's tricky, because like I kind of feel like I stand on both sides of this thing, where like I'm always trying to advocate for creatives, and like, because creative people get shafted. Like it's like this weird expectation that like what you do should be free when I think everyone should be compensated for it. But that being said, like there has to be this like balance, because like on the other thing, one of the other hats I wear is, you know, a booker and a curator and like someone who's actually seen the numbers, where it's just like, it's a lot of times there are venues that are just kind of being greedy, but a lot of times it's just like, no, that's just what the margins are.
Yes, 100%.
Like it's just a fact of what it is. And there's like a weird growing pain thing where like I think like a solo, duo, or a trio, yeah, you can make that work. But the second you're starting to like expand, it's tough.
Very tough.
It's really, because like if it grows too fast, then the expectation is just like, oh, that's got to be every night. Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah.
And then if it grows too slow, then there's like this weird stagnation where like either the business is going to fail, or the people just kind of get used to it and just, you know, it isn't as in demand, and like, yeah, it's like the restaurant industry is so tough. I don't like I don't know. Weren't you saying like you actually like took over the family restaurant once, or were you just kind of like?
I was a partner, for like 12 years. Yeah,
that's insane.
Oh, it's a ton of work. Yeah, it's
it is
grind for sure.
It's just, and it's go too.
It
like
is. Definitely. I don't miss that part of it. I don't miss that part at all. Like, I'd rather work on this stuff so much.
Yeah. Are you completely out of the game, or are you? Well, good for you.
Well, I guess I do a little bit of work for a local brewery here in town, but that's just like a little part-time sales thing I do. But no, I'm out of like, I don't tend bar, and I got out of that part of it.
It's hard to get out.
I was burnt.
It's hard to get out because it's like working in that industry is kind of like, when you get out, it's kind of like the last scene in that movie, The Hurt Locker, where like he's just like staring at all the breakfast cereal, or like, I don't understand how I fit in this world at all. And then you just end up going back to bartending. Because like you just got used to the hours, and then now all your friends have the same hours, and then like sometimes
that's so true, and the money comes with it usually. Yeah.
It's like it's hard, and sometimes the money is too good to walk away from. Where it's just
a lot of times it is, and I totally get that, because you can support yourself pretty easily in that industry if you find a good spot to land.
Yeah, but it can be brutal, like soul crushing. It's hard on your knees, and I think everyone kind of has like a threshold of like how much drunken idiocy you can like really handle before you're like, all right, I don't.
Yep.
Do I really need to be doing?
That's where I was at. Like, I didn't mind the running the business part, but I ran the nights, and I mean, I was probably in it like 2 years too long, and I had a pretty short fuse because I was just, I couldn't handle it anymore. But I didn't have. I mean, I was in it with my family, so it was like I couldn't just leave either.
No, that's way different. That's like, I mean,
I was gonna see it through, so to speak.
Yes,
but it didn't.
I mean, at that point too, it kind of becomes like that movie, The Godfather. You know, it's just like, it's like this is the family business.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yes. I totally feel that.
Well, it's crazy. It's crazy work. Glad you got out of it. Glad you're glad you're on to other things. That being said, now that Democracy Now! Is on, I got to make way for the next program here. But this is a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking to you. Good to see you. Travel safe up to the show, and then travel safe back, because you're doing like a twofer, pretty close there.
Yes, we are. Good week for us.
Yeah, it'd be good. But yeah, good to see you. Hopefully I'll see you in person sooner rather than later. I'm actually gonna try to come to the show tomorrow, depending on depending on a lot of other things. But I'm gonna try to make it because I am normally working.
That's totally fair. I get it. I totally get it.
But I will also be in Rochester pretty soon coming up. So like one of these times, if not tomorrow, I'll see you soon. But it was
Sounds
good to
great,
see
my friend. Good to see you, Mike.
you. Good to see you. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Stay warm.